Hello students, today we are going to study the square of various numbers and the properties of the perfect squares. Before that, let's recall how to calculate the area of a square surface. Yes, the area of a square is equal to the square of its side, that is, side multiplied by side. So, this is a square of side 1 unit. What will be its area? We know that the area of a square is equal to side multiplied by side. This is equal to 1 multiplied by 1. This can be represented as 1 square, which is equal to 1 unit square. This unit can be either centimeter or meter or any other appropriate unit of length. Now, what will be the area of a square with side 2 unit? Yes, area is equal to 2 multiplied by 2. That is equal to 2 square, which is 4 unit square. Now, what about a square with side 8 unit? Area will be 8 multiplied by 8. That is equal to 8 square, which is 64. So, we can say that the area of squares with side 1 unit is 1 square. That means 1. Square with side 2 is 2 square. That means 4 and so on. Do you know what's special about these numbers? 1, 4, 9, 25, 64 and other such numbers? All these numbers can be expressed as the product of a number with itself, such as the square of the number 2 can be expressed as the product of 2 with itself, that is 2 multiplied by 2. Such numbers are called square numbers or perfect squares. So, we can say that if a natural number a is expressed as the square of any natural number b, then a is a square number. Do you remember what natural numbers are? Yes, all the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on are the natural numbers. Okay, can you tell me the squares of 6 and 7? Yes, 6 square is equal to 36 and 7 square is equal to 49. Now, do you think 40 is a square number? So, 40 is not a square number. And can you tell me the reason why 40 is not a square number? Square of 6 is 36 and that of 7 is 49. So, if 40 is a square number, it must be the square of a natural number between 6 and 7. There is no other natural number between 6 and 7. This is precisely the reason why 40 is not a square number. Let's consider two more numbers, 50 and 60. Are these numbers perfect squares? No, 50 and 60 are not perfect squares as they are not the square of any natural number. Can you find the perfect square numbers between 50 and 60? Let's consider these numbers. Here we can see that 49 is the square of 7 and 64 is the square of 8. There are no other natural numbers between 7 and 8. So, there is no perfect square between 50 and 60. Let's now discuss how you can determine the perfect squares of various numbers through shortcut methods. Let's take an example. So, let's say that we have to determine the square of 43. So, the nearest tens to 43 is 40. So, 43 is 3 distance away from 40. Add 3 to 43, we get 46. Subtract 3 from 43, we get 40. Multiply 46 and 40. To simplify this multiplication, write 46 as 40 plus 6 and then multiply it by 40. Can you think of the reason why we have written 46 as 40 plus 6? We could have multiplied 46 directly by 40. So why have we divided 46 into 40 and 6? Yes, because it will be easy and convenient to multiply 40 by 40 and 40 by 6. So here we get 1600 plus 240, that is equal to 1840. Now add the square of 3, which was the distance of the number from its nearest tens, to 1840. So we get 1840 plus 3 square, that is equal to 1840 plus 9, which is equal to 1849. This is exactly the square of 43. It's easy, right? Can you now determine the square of 78? Yes, the nearest tens to 78 is 80. So 78 is 2 distance away from 80. Adding 2 to 78, we get 80. Subtracting 2 from 78, we get 76. Now multiply 80 and 76. So how can we multiply them? Yes, write 76 as 70 plus 6 and then multiply it by 80. We get 5600 plus 480, that is equal to 6080. Now add the square of 2, which was the distance of the number from its nearest tens, to 6080. So we get 6080 plus 2 square, that is equal to 6080 plus 4, that is equal to 6084. This is how we can easily determine the squares of numbers below 100. Now let's talk about some of the properties of the square numbers. These are the squares of numbers from 1 to 20. Let's look at the ending digits of the square numbers. What do you observe? Yes, all these square numbers are ending with either 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at its units place. None of these squares are ending with 2, 3, 7 or 8 at its units place. So, do you think that all the numbers ending with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at its units place are square numbers? Think about it. So, it's not necessary that if a number is ending in any of these will be a perfect square. For example, 106 and 201 are not perfect squares, although they are ending with 6 and 1. Could you determine just by looking if 106 and 201 are perfect squares or not? There are methods to determine this that you will study in the upcoming modules. Now, let's observe these highlighted numbers and their squares. What do you see here? Yes, it is clear from this that if a number has 1 or 9 in its units place, then its square ends in 1. Now, let's consider square numbers ending in 6. What property do you see in these? Yes, if a number has 4 or 6 in its units place, then its square will always end in 6. What about the numbers ending in 3 or 7? What will be the digit in the units place of their squares? Yes, their squares will end in 9, such as the square of 13 is 169 and that of 17 is 289, both ending with 9 in the units place. You can find other such rules by observing the numbers and their squares. Now, let's consider the squares of 10 and 20. What do you see? There is 1 0 in the number but 2 zeros in the squares. Here you can see that the square of 2 is 4. So the square of 20 is 400. Let's see the squares of some numbers ending in 0 at the units place. What do you see? The numbers that contain 2 zeros, their squares have 4 zeros at the end, right? As here you can see the square of 200 is 40,000, where 200 contain 2 zeros and its square contains 4 zeros. What do you notice here? Can we say that the number of zeros at the end of square numbers is always even? Yes, the square numbers can only have even zeros at the end. Now, tell me, how about 1000? Is this a perfect square? Well, let us apply our logic of number of zeros at the end. So, 1000 here has how many zeros at the end? 3, right? Now 3 is an odd number, and we have just learnt that the square numbers can only have even number of zeros at the end. So we can simply conclude that 1000 is not a perfect square. Let's see one more pattern in the square numbers. What can you say about the squares of even numbers? Look here. The square of 2 is 4, 12 is 144, 4 is 16, and so on. So we can see that the square of an even number is also an even number. So what about odd numbers? Yes, unlike even numbers, the square of an odd number is always an odd number. Look here. The square of 3 is 9, 15 is 225, 7 is 49, and so on. So we can see that the square of an odd number is always an odd number. So students, in this module, we have studied about the perfect squares and some of the properties of the perfect squares. In our next module, we will study about some of the interesting patterns of perfect squares.